Again, that is freetalklive.com. Lots to talk about tonight, including taking your calls about anything. But, Mark, you have something you want to discuss?
Well, yeah, I found on the internet, while scouring the internets today, found a, actually it was sent to me by a listener, at plsweb.org. That's the Party for Socialism and Liberation.
Oh, dear.
They have out here, Ron Paul declares war against workers. Anti-war activists should reject his reactionary programming. And it's an open letter to socialists out there, I guess, on why they should not listen to Ron Paul and all his anti-war rhetoric.
Right. They've heard the siren song of Ron Paul on this getting out of the war, which many of them are in favor of, but they're saying, wait, we've got more information. All right, what do they have to say? Millions
of people have seen the Democratic Party for what it is, a war party. Since Democrats took control of the House and Senate as a result of the November 2006 election, they have done nothing to end the occupation in Iraq. But instead of turning away from the Democrats and toward the building of a left-wing alternative, some of the anti-war movement have begun to champion a marginal candidate running for the Republican nomination. Now remember, this is the website of the Party for Socialism and Liberation.
Yeah.
Ron Paul, a right-wing libertarian congressman from Texas, has no chance of winning the Republican nomination.
I love it when they claim libertarians are right-wing. I don't know what that means.
No.
And I don't think Ron Paul would qualify.
They're top wing. If you look at the Nolan chart, conservative is on the right and libertarian's on the top, left is on the left. And
is his position on the drug war right-wing?
I am certainly not right-wing.
Right.
You could look at some libertarian positions and say, well, it's right wing,
but
like
you
gun
could look
freedom.
at others and say that's left wing.
Right, exactly, which is why you're saying they're on top, Mark, because they're completely different from the right and left wings. So this is typical just political hackery. Go ahead.
Yep. Let's see. He has no chance of winning the Republican nomination, much less the presidency. He is by the way, if he did win the Republican nomination, he would win the presidency. He is a fringe bourgeoisie candidate.
What's
around.
That mean?
Bourgeoisie, isn't that the middle, the merchant class?
Okay, gotcha.
However, prominent and misguided left-leaning pundits and hard-right neo-fascists champion him as the candidate of choice, nonetheless.
Neo-fascists?
Yeah, I don't think neo-fascists like Ron Paul.
Am I a neo-fascist? I'm championing him as the candidate of choice here. What are the seeds of this unholy union? Paul calls for an immediate end to the occupation of Iraq. It's a sticking point for many, although it should not blur a sober analysis of this reactionary, capitalist candidate's positions. He has been forthright with his social and political program. And
that's true.
He has been
very forthright.
And it's so rare in politics, that's another reason people are gravitating towards him. Paul's libertarianism, or constitutionalism, speaks frequently about getting rid of invasive big government. For workers who oppose the Patriot Act, government spying, and inflated military budgets, this position at first might have a certain appeal. But Paul wants to create a small government so as to prevent any intrusion into the affairs of big business. He upholds free market capitalism as the solution to every social problem.
Do they really believe what they're saying, and that is that they believe that the government intrudes on big business to some annoying extent, or to some extent that really keeps the big businesses in check in some way?
I think that, what people believe is that they have a vote in government, they don't have a vote in Walmart.
It's nonsense.
They do have a vote. They do have a vote in Walmart.
They either go and shop there or not.
But they've expended that vote by not shopping there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their vote. And everybody else is voting otherwise. So they want their vote in government to count against Walmart or whatever corporation. You pick your corporation. Insert big corporation A here.
But it doesn't ever work. The big corporations are in charge of the government.
Right. The big corporations buy the government. They have the lobbyists. You don't.
Well, that's why I ask, do they really believe their own propaganda?
I think
or are they just apologists for the state?
I think they do believe it. Yeah, absolutely. These people are not involved in the socialist worker party or whatever the hell they're calling themselves because they don't believe in it. Because they're not effective, Ian.
So in their mind, the reason why the big corporations are so big and troublesome today is because there's just not enough government regulation, and they think there needs to be more.
If the workers, as they keep on using the terminology, if the workers were actually in charge of government, which they never will be because they're workers.
Right.
Once they get in charge of government, they'll no longer be workers, and they'll be corrupted by the system. But, these people don't understand that.
Sure.
And you can't tell them the socialism's failed every single time it's been tried because, well, there's something wrong with this system here, and there was something wrong there, and
right. It wasn't done the way I say it should be done.
I don't care what your iteration of big government socialism is. It is a failure, and I'll tell you why. Call in, please.
I like what Harry Brown says about that, is that no matter what, you will never be in charge of government. So just because you would like the program to be passed in this fashion does not mean that that's how it will be carried out.
It's true. Even if you actually do manage to get elected, you still won't be in charge.
No.
Because then you'll just be one of hundreds of votes that will either vote something up or down. And if a program that you're interested in gets voted in, if by some miracle gets voted in without being amended like crazy in the process, and by some miraculous occurrence actually gets voted in the way you originally intended it, it won't stay that way because the program won't be run by you. So even if you are the person that did manage to shoehorn a program in, you're not going to be the one that's doing the day-to-day operations. That will be run by government bureaucrats. And those people are not you. They don't owe you anything. And they're going to take your program and do with it as they please. And they're going to lobby for changes that are going to expand the program beyond its original intention. So even if you could achieve that, you've still failed because there's no way for you to control the program once it gets out there.
Afraid so. So, the socialists continue to bash Ron Paul. He does not want to create a government that defends workers and the oppressed. Instead, Paul wants to overturn the concessions that workers have won from the capitalist class through decades of struggle. This is why he opposes the income tax, so that big business does not have to give anything back.
Just as an aside, there are talk show hosts out there that have their own magazine. Mm-hmm. Glenn Beck is one of them.
He doesn't write that crap?
He doesn't. I doubt he's the editor of his own magazine.
I doubt it very seriously. It's difficult. He's a brand, and people want to use that brand. Unfortunately, somebody got in charge there who used Ron Paul's name, and
Ron Paul
has
he's
backed
taken
away
moral
from it
responsibility from it.
Yeah.
He has said he's sorry, and he doesn't agree with those statements at all. Those are not
nonsense.
him. And as I understand it, the I think it's either the Texas NAACP head or the guy that's the head in Ron Paul's district, somebody very close to the Texas area that Ron Paul lives in, the head of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored Persons. They have endorsed Ron Paul and said, those quotes are not the Ron we know. So there you go. I mean, that's all you need to say to that.
On December 23, 2007, Ron appeared on Meet the Press, where he asserted that he would not have voted for the Civil Rights Act of 1964 because it impinged on the property rights of business owners. Let me address that real quick if I could. It's my business. If I want to only let in hot blonde girls, then that's all I should have to let in. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll go out of business because people don't like the idea that I'm, for one, it's creepy. But people don't like the idea that I'm discriminating against hot Mexican girls or hot white guys or whatever. Right. Whatever it is that I'm doing, people may not agree with it, but, it's my business. I should be able to do business in any manner I wish. And this is the thing that's always baffled me is how come Hollywood gets away with it? How come Hollywood, a script calls for a 7-year-old blonde girl to do an acting part? How come a 6'5" black man can't play the part?
Yeah, that's discrimination.
It's discrimination. Well, because people have their own visions of what it is that they want in a particular area.
And it's their film, so they should be able to do what they want with it.
And in the same way, it's your business. You should be able to do what you want. Now, I may disagree with what your business is, and I likely will boycott you if you run a bigoted business.
Oh, if I find out that someone I've been doing business with is a white supremacist, I will not set foot in their business anymore. In fact, I found out
that if what their thought is doesn't bother me. It's what their action is that bothers me.
Oh, if I found out what their thought was, I would punish them for that too.
Well,
if I knew it,
people grow, Ian.
Well, that's fine. Then they could show me that they've grown.
Well, I don't know that. I would like the opportunity to talk to them.
You would patronize a known racist?
Racism implies action. Okay. A bigot, a person who thinks that whites are supreme over blacks has some kind of thought like that. That's just a thought. If he's not doing anything with that thought, I'm not going to punish him for it.
He won't necessarily be doing things you can see.
I would like the opportunity to talk to him about those thoughts. And one of the ways that I could do that is by doing business with him. If he says, I'm not letting black people in my business, that's something entirely different.
I think it's a difference in degrees, but it is different.
Okay. As for workers' rights, Paul opposes the 8-hour day and the minimum wage. By the way, who works 8 hours a day anymore? I can tell you I work 10, 11.
Yeah, I work 10. At 10 and minimum.
I want that opportunity. I can make more money with my day. Your 8-hour workday law, it screws me out of those 2 hours that I could be working.
You know what's funny is my work gets around the 8-hour workday law by actually only paying me. What they do is they pay me technically for 40 hours a week, but I actually work 50 hours a week.
Well, it's salary.
Right. So that's how they sort of play it. Like, I get this much an hour, but when I work 50 hours, I really only get this much an hour. But
that's how management tends to
right.
be, and you've moved up to the joyful world of management.
Right, they're not talking about you, Julia. You are now one of the capitalist pigs, basically, one of the ruling class. They're talking about the workers. They're talking about the ones that are hourly wage workers.
I'm working for somebody.
Yeah, and the minimum wage really just cuts out young people that want to get into the workforce and immigrants that don't speak English very well. It just kills their opportunity to earn.
I had to do some training down in Massachusetts, and their minimum wage is now up to something crazy like $8 an hour. And the GM there was asking me, what's your minimum wage in New Hampshire? And I said, it's, right now I think it's $6.50. And she said, oh, gosh, you're so lucky. Because she can only hire a certain class of people because she has to pay them $8 an hour. So she's not going to hire some high school kid for $8 an hour because they're not worth $8 an hour.
Right, they show up late, they kind of putter around.
They
and
don't know
work
what
as
they're
hard.
doing, they talk a lot.
Shirts untucked, hats crooked sideways.
And they don't get it, and therefore they don't get the opportunity to learn what it's like to be in the workplace. How important it is to be on time. How important it is to have your uniform looking good, to present yourself, and therefore the business well. They don't learn these lessons. What do? They don't work. They don't work in high school. Then they don't work in college. Then they pop out and they just expect the world to give them something. Sounds like a crappy employee to me.
That's what the government does, is it kicks out the bottom rungs from the ladder of affluence.
Yep. It's one of the reasons why companies are leaving America and going to other countries. Yeah. Because they can find people who want to work hard there. Anyway.
All right, continuing with the socialist hit piece.
All right, and Paul opposes laws banning child labor and other legislation that ensures safe working conditions.
It doesn't ensure anything.
Right.
They don't even... How can you check up on that? They don't do that effectively.
And child labor laws... I'm just against them. I started working when I was 12 years old.
I started working when I was 14, and it was the best decision I ever made for myself as a teenager.
I learned so much from working. I wasn't exploited or anything like that, at least not from my opinion.
Nope.
I learned some good and valuable lessons, a hell of a lot more valuable than frickin' high school.
I worked at a young age, around the same age for my mother at her thrift store in downtown Sarasota. As a cashier, basically.
She was probably exploiting you.
Well, I wasn't getting paid, except maybe a very small stipend. But that's what the socialists would say, is that I was being exploited. But I would say I was learning some very, very important life lessons about customer service, about how to handle running a cash register and dealing with people. More on the way. This is your show. It is Free Talk Live. freetalklive.com. If you like the show, want to help support Free Talk Live, go shopping at amazon.freetalklive.com. Entering Amazon through that link will result in a percentage of your purchase going to Free Talk Live. You've got to do the shopping anyway. You've got stuff you need to buy to live life. Even though the socialists would like you to move back into a cave, you need to go and buy things. So do it at amazon.freetalklive.com. You'll get a great deal. You'll get free Super Saver shipping on a whole bunch of items, and Free Talk Live will get a percentage of your purchase if you start your shopping experience at amazon.freetalklive.com. And the Free State Project's Porcupine Freedom Festival, better known as PorcFest, happening June 9th through the 15th. At PorcFest, you'll be able to meet hundreds of individuals who, like you, cherish liberty and are living the goal of liberty in our lifetime. Discover new freedoms, new communities, and new beginnings. Learn more at porcfest.com. That's PORCFEST.com. 800-259-9231. Some more thoughts here on this article, or more, I guess, from the article by the Socialists. The Socialists are on the attack when it comes to Ron Paul and libertarianism. Let's let them continue their tripe.
At least these Socialists are. Ron Paul is against unemployment insurance, welfare, and food stamps. Now, he's not against unemployment and welfare. He's against government unemployment insurance.
Right, they make it sound
and government welfare.
They're trying to make it sound like Ron Paul hates poor people or the underprivileged people that are having a tough time in life, and that's not true.
And Liberty will probably benefit those people as much, if not more, than everyone else.
No doubt about it, because the fact is, giving people a tax break is good across the board. I mean, rich people, they can afford to pay the taxes, but poor people can't.
Right.
So cutting out property taxes or the income tax, or not initiating a national sales tax is going to result in more money being in the pockets of the people that need it the most, and that is the poor people.
And, the donations to the Ron Paul campaign, at least on the Money Bomb Day, I think they averaged $90. Does that sound right to you?
About that, yeah.
$90. These are not rich people donating to this campaign.
Well, why do you think that is?
Because poor people want freedom just as much as rich people do. More.
Mm-hmm.
All right. He would like to see Social Security gradually eliminated.
Hooray!
Same here. Social Security is a stupid scam. It's a racist program that benefits
rich white women
at the
cost of everyone else.
Of the cost of everyone else, especially poor black men. All right. In Congress, Paul has voted consistently against strengthening workers' rights and the Occupational Health and Safety Administration, as though this government organization really has anything to do with workers' rights. It has to do with benefiting those people in charge of government. And on December 5th, 2007...
One other thing. Workers don't have any more rights or any different set of rights than everyone else. And that's
workers are businesses that sell their labor.
Well, government tries to do, and what these socialists are trying to do, is they're trying to lump everybody into a different group, and they're trying to say, well, as a worker, you have these rights. As a healthcare consumer, you have these rights.
You must be clairvoyant. You'll hear the last part of this article. This socialist Labor Party or whatever, it's the Party for Socialism and Liberation. They really do try to pit workers against everyone else, and I'll read it to you.
The fact is, everyone has the same set of rights because we're all born, and that's where you have rights as a human being, and that's it. Because you're working doesn't give you any extra set of rights. Because you're a business owner doesn't give you any extra set of rights. That's just nonsense.
On December the 5th, 2007. He became the first presidential candidate to cross the picket line of striking writers in Hollywood so that he could appear on ABC's The View.
That selfish bastard!
My God, he crossed a picket line.
I say great! Thank goodness Jay Leno went back on the air without the approval of the Writers Guild, because there were people that were being put out of jobs, and the writers don't give a flip. I've heard some of the news clips on this where the writers are just like, oh, they're trying to say the people are losing jobs because of us. Well, they are! You guys aren't working, so the camera guys aren't working either.
The grips and the best boys, those guys are not working either.
Right, the ones that make less money than you.
Right. The guys that bring the donuts for the set, those guys are not working right now.
Right, so Jay Leno and a couple of the other shows said, look, we can't afford this. I mean, these people are expecting paychecks. They're expecting to be able to come to work, and because you writers are getting greedy, they can't have jobs now? Screw that. We're going back on the air. And Ron Paul crossed that picket line. I think he's a hero for it.
On the environment, Paul called the Kyoto Protocol the current international framework for the reduction of greenhouse gases, an anti-Americanism masquerading as environmentalism. For Paul, the key to sound environmental policy is respect for private property rights.
At least they're getting his positions fairly accurately.
Yep. He thinks individuals should be responsible for suing polluters who violate their property rights, and that the rising cost of lawsuits would stop those committing environmental destruction. What kind of foolishness is that?
Have you ever been to some government parks or, I mean...
Right. Even if you think about litter for a second. Litter is... in and of itself, I mean, it by its own definition, is something that can only happen on communal property. There's no such thing as litter on public property. That's just something that needs to be picked up so that we can do business or that my house looks nice.
You mean private property?
Excuse me, on private property. Litter is, by its definition, throwing trash on communal property. So, yeah, I mean, it's the tragedy.
Right, are you
of the
littering
commons.
at the baseball stadium when you throw your bag of peanuts on the ground?
Not really. I mean, it's part of you paid a ticket to come in, And I would say it's rude.
Well, if there's a trash can nearby, then it's rude.
Right.
But if there's no trash can, what the hell are you supposed to do?
They pay people to pick up after.
They have the option of saying, you know what, this whole baseball thing isn't working out. Everybody's leaving their trash everywhere, for God's sake.
Is it littering if you leave your soda cup in the theater, the movie theater after the movie's over?
Yeah, it wouldn't be what I would consider responsible. It's not the way my mom raised me, but it's not what I would call littering. No, that movie theater wants you to come in, and they're willing to deal with the trash you leave on the floor in order to do it. They include that in the cost of your ticket, cleaning up after you. Now, if you're sensible and you clean up after yourself, hopefully everyone will see your example and do so, and therefore together we can lower the cost of movie theater tickets. But it's not likely to happen, and it's just one of those things you pay for when you go to the movies. Going on, he thinks Ron Paul. He thinks individuals should be responsible for suing polluters. Oh, I'm sorry, I read that. Ron Paul wants to repeal the Roe versus Wade Supreme Court decision. Now, I can't say that I agree with that, and I'm just going to go on.
I'll agree with that, and I'm in favor of a woman's right to choose. I don't think the federal government should have any say in anything like that.
Well, then I'll read the paragraph.
Whatever.
All right, I'll go on. Paul's domestic program includes the abolition of the Department of Education and federal college funding like Pell Grants. In his view, the right to free public schools should be made at the state level.
The right
Education
to free
should be
public
privatized
schools.
and treated like any other commodity. Well, you see, here's what doesn't make any sense is everybody pays taxes. Julie, you're paying taxes?
Yes.
Yeah, you said that it's cost you what?
$600 a month.
$600 a month. That $600 a month is in part going to pay for Pell Grants for college students whose parents make significantly more than you do.
I went to college, and I wasn't eligible for a Pell Grant. So I pay in, and it doesn't matter. I get screwed. I just pay for other people.
It's just an unfair system.
You don't care, Julia. You hate young people.
I do hate young people. I hate people in general, actually.
Paul's claims healthcare should not be left to HMOs, big drug companies, and government bureaucrats. This message may have a populist appeal, but what he proposes is a free market healthcare system. It's the opposite of universal healthcare.
Yes, thank goodness.
Contrary to Paul's assertions, market-based healthcare system does not increase personal responsibility. It allows the insurance corporations and healthcare providers to ravage, manipulate, and overcharge working people.
That is such nonsense.
Wait a second. How are you going to overcharge me if I'm not paying you? Because once I decide you're overcharging me, I'm going to stop paying you.
Right. That's the thing. It's like they act as though that without the government around, these insurance companies or any other company is going to be able to coerce you into doing business with them. That doesn't
speak very highly of me.
No.
It's an insult to me to say that I'm not smart enough to look out for myself, to spend my money the way I want.
You'll just be taken advantage of by the evil corporations.
That just
you
pisses
fool.
me off.
Well, you need our brilliant socialists to be elected in order to help you run your life.
That's right. Progressives and socialists need to expose the reactionary program of Ron Paul. In the coming year, as the electoral propaganda intensifies, it will become increasingly important for the anti-war movement to stay in the streets
expose him
and stay independent of the two major political parties. Working class people and socialists need to be clear. We will support no candidate who advocates the interests of the enemy class.
The individual?
The enemy?
Well, the enemy, of course, is the rich people.
Is
what
there
they're
more
saying.
of this?
No, this is it.
That's so outrageous.
Enemy class. Your fellow Americans are your enemies, apparently.
I want to recap just the end. It's just so good, Mark. I thought we shouldn't hold it over, but let's just recap that and talk more about it now.